We are live. Hello, and my name is Kyle Vines. Introduce myself. Today, I'll be talking about why most AEC AI initiatives stall and how to get them right. Um, I have been in architecture, engineering, and construction for about a decade and a half now. I have worked in small firms, just a few people, a large firm, several thousand people, and owned my own engineering firm as well. I've worked with AI tools since they've been available to the public and also deployed AI initiatives at large firms. So I'm going to take my experience and share that with you during this presentation. So again, why most AEC AI initiatives stall and how to get them right. Like I said, my name is Kyle, and I am the founder of AECAI.io. And AI pressure in AEC is coming from every direction. It's coming from the cultural norms as we've seen our culture be inundated by AI, but it's also coming from clients, competitors, and then leadership within organizations. Many firms feel like they have to do something. They're just not sure exactly what do something actually means, and they don't know exactly how to pin that down. So I'll talk about that a bit today. And with AI initiatives in AEC, most failures aren't actually technical. They're more structural and organizational. It has to do with some disconnects that I will talk about here a little bit later in the presentation. And this should be about 33 minutes long, but it's my first live. I'm a little nervous, so it may be shorter than that, but I'll try to hit my time. So if AI were easy in AEC, it would already be working. The problem isn't the tools, it's actually the fit, the timing, and the risk. So why is AI different in AEC? So some of the key points on why it's different with AEC and deployment is different is billability versus experimentation tension. This is a big one, and this is really what got me interested in the topic, seeing it internally within my organization. And it can be any size organization. I'll touch on all sizes. So say you're a very small firm, you've got the owner operator who's pushing AI. You're telling your engineering staff that we need to deploy this because you think it's the right thing to do. You don't want to lose your edge, but your engineering staff has to remain billable. So there's this conflict between getting something right, which inherently requires a lot of testing and nuance, versus billability for business sake. There's also QA/QC standards and professional liability. Um, I don't think I need to get into details about the potential exposure that one hallucination might cause your firm if you don't continue to have human in the loop. And I'll get into that a bit more here in a moment. So there's also, this is a big one, and it has to do with AI or not, but I think AI is a good solution for it. It's the fact that institutional knowledge is trapped in people and not systems. So even if we weren't talking about AI, maybe your senior engineering staff is retiring out. One of the hardest parts of an engineering firm keeping going, if that happens, is moving those silos of knowledge and distributing it amongst your staff. This is one of those things that makes AI in AEC particularly helpful, I think, but it's definitely what makes AEC different. Um, and the other is that whenever it comes to technical tools, particularly um, software tools, you may hear this with IT folks or software developers, which is move fast and break things. and that doesn't necessarily work within an engineering firm. It may work in regards to CAD committees or CAD managers. Whenever you're deploying a new software, you want to break it before it's deployed so that your users do not come up against any issues and continue their workflows. But this mentality within IT doesn't exactly mesh with AEC firms. So engineers are paid to be right, not fast. If you're fast, you get paid more, but being right is key here to avoid being a uh, expert witness in a jury or something like that. Don't want to risk that PE stamp. But errors have downstream contractual impact. So it really has to be done well. And like I said, one hallucination within an AI system can undo trust, not only internally, but also externally with your clients. And as we all know, our deliverables are our marketing documents, right? We may have a marketing team, of course, but at the end of the day, it's our deliverables that help us to build relationships with clients, get recommended to other clients, and that's key to having trust within our industry. So you don't want a hallucination to undo that for you. So now I'm going to talk about the 5 most common reasons AEC AI initiatives stall. I've seen this personally, um, but want to cover them specifically here. So, tool first thinking. So, buying before you understand. So, sinking part of your budget into, say, licensing for OpenAI um, Enterprise, um, or any of to pick your AI model, right? So, choosing to deploy this before testing. Um, and I'll touch on this specifically with AEC is that we think about the tools at our disposal. I'm a civil designer and have been for a while now, but previously I was working on the mechanical side of things, and there are different tools for every job. Even within civil or mechanical, you have Revit, Civil 3D. They're doing different things, but then you may jump over to um, different tools. Oh my goodness, it's eluding me now. But there are many different tool sets that allow you to accomplish the same thing. A lot of times that's driven by client requirements, but it's the same type of thing here. You really have to think about how this tool is going to fit within your system and within what your client needs. The other thing that I touched on earlier is that there's no clear ownership. It's IT. So this is the second point of why it stalls out. So it's IT versus engineering versus leadership. So maybe you have a larger firm, a few thousand folks. So you've got a committee or a task force that is going to include C-suite individuals and a few people from IT or leaders within different engineering disciplines. And they're going to say, okay, this is the initiative that we have. The initiative is then driven by people on the ground floor. So that's going to be your engineers who have the knowledge to train the models or would actually be using it, and then IT that would have to set up everything on the back end, permissions and the like there to make sure that you're not going to break anything. We've all had IT downtime, and it is just about the worst. And you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and cause internal IT downtime by not thinking about this conflict in clear ownership. Uh, the third item as to why AI often stalls in AEC firms is disconnected data. So, like I said, I've worked at multiple firms, and At the highest end, you've got data vaults where everything is broken apart, easily linked, and then pulled back together. Very, very good standards on how data is organized within internal file systems. Other firms, smaller ones, it doesn't have to be small, but some firms fly by the seat of their pants. They have an idea of how they want files to be organized, but at the end of the day, maybe it's not done that way. So comment how if you've had any issues with finding the file that you're looking for. Uh, File organization can be different between projects, between clients. So PDF chaos and standards sprawl is really what I'm talking about here. And that data is really the knowledge center for your AI system. So think about AI as a second, potentially, as a second brain that can have all of your past project knowledge. But to do that, it has to be structured and organized. So disconnected data is really a big issue that I see. The fourth issue, and you can't underestimate this one, but that's going to be staff resistance. So there's fear, skepticism, and overload are the three main points with staff resistance. And I see it from all ends of the spectrum, from senior engineers to lower entry level engineers. On the senior side, what I hear most is, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. So the skepticism. And then at the lower end, your entry level staff, it's fear around, well, is this going to replace my job? And then everything in between, right? So staff resistance is the fourth of the five main reasons I see AI implementation in AEC stall out. And then this fifth one is it may not even be on your radar, but I think it's extremely important. And that's going to be undefined success metrics. So, not having a clear return on investment. So, if X number of seats for this AI system or X number of dollars for this AI implementation through a third party is completed, how many projects do we have to be this much faster on because of these systems before we get our return on investment? So having these clearly lined out is another issue because if you say, okay, yeah, we've got it, we're paying X amount, and maybe it's even deployed in a way that your staff is using it, but you can't justify the cost because you don't have a good vision of what the return on investment is. So defining those metrics is really key when deploying AI systems within your AEC firm. So the main things with this part is AI fails quietly. So pilots fade, licenses expire, and momentum dies, right? So none of these are solved with better prompts either. It's not about prompt engineering, it's about systems thinking and having a really, really in-depth understanding on what you're trying to achieve before going down this path. You may already be down the path a bit, and that's okay. It's never too late to say, okay, what am I doing? Take a step back, look at it, and then move forward in a more positive direction. Because, like many firms, and I'll get off my script here, but many firms I know last year deployed AI systems and tested for the year, and then we're deciding on this year if they had the budget to implement globally within their organization or try a different tool. And this may be the case for you as well. So that's why I'm going to talk about what actually works. So a practical adoption model. So the core framework. So there are going to be 5 points in this one. And the first one is kind of speaking to what I was talking about with your documentation. So readiness before automation. So not only having clear standards that are followed, because these are Um, I like to think about them as rule-based systems with AI injected into the rule-based system to make better decisions or more nuanced decisions, which aligns really, really well with architecture, engineering, and construction, right? We have a set of rules that a jurisdiction or a client has provided for us, and then it's up to us to interpret how this design is going to fit within those parameters. And I think that's exactly how AI systems fit within organizations is you have to be ready before automation. You have to know exactly what you're trying to do and how to get there. And then you can start defining where to fit AI into the system. So with that, you want, and this is point two, workflow specific use cases. So just giving a GPT license to a firm and saying, here, let this help you draft emails. Yes, that's workflow specific, but maybe it would be better if you built out a custom GPT within that helped you draft marketing emails or proposals. Just having a very specific use case, and that's a very simplified one, but specific use cases, the more specific, the better. Um, I'll go off on another tangent here. I've seen it so many times where there is so much hype around artificial intelligence and what it can do for us that people start to think of it as a tool. And it is a tool, right? But the most common tool I see it equated to just in practice is a hammer. Here's AI, hit that, hit this. What's the task? Let me throw AI at it. And that's where you start to stall out. And again, in my experience, if it is a tool, I believe that it should be looked at as a scalpel. You should be surgical with exactly how you're implementing it. There's so much risk inherent in AEC that we don't want to cause more problems. So being surgical with how we are doing these deployments is going to help us in the long run. With that, and this is the third point, low risk, high confidence entry points. That's where you want to be. So proposals is a good example. QA/QC, if you have an AI that's trained on your standards and then is given examples of what IFC projects look like, then it can assist in doing the first run at QA/QC before that project sheet set or report hits the PM's desk. So that's low risk, high confidence. Your internal staff is already going to be, in a perfect world, doing self reviews. And if they do a self review, have AI do QA/QC, hand it off to their PM, PM does another QA/QC with AI, and then does their review, then we are not only training the model on how um, deliverables need to look, but we're also lowering the risk because, and you'll hear me say this a lot, we're keeping human in the loop at every phase of the process. The fourth point here is going to be phased adoption. Um, and it's not going to be uh, a miracle of transformation, right? Phased adoption, you could talk to maybe your CAD manager about this. Anytime you have a new set of standards or, um, yeah, I'll stick with standards. So you've got a new set of standards, or maybe your client, maybe a jurisdiction gave you a new set of standards. If you're already working on a set of projects before those standards come out, you're not going to deploy those standards immediately to the project. You're going to start with them on the next project that you get. You're going to take it in small batches and in phases. Talk to your CAD manager about how they deploy, say, a new workflow. They'll probably, if they're following good internal rules, probably going to have, say, a CAD committee or a set of users that are trusted that are going to be able to test everything, find issues so that those can be resolved before it is then adopted by the firm as a whole, or maybe as sectors of a firm. So maybe it goes to wastewater first, they're testing it, then it goes to stormwater, then it goes to land development, whatever it may be. But you're going to do it in phases so that you can not only build trust internally with the new systems, but also identify your nodes of confidence within your organization so that as you continue to deploy, people who it's new to can go back to that first individuals within that first group to ask questions, and they can be kind of the cheerleaders running with this system forward. All right, and this is the fifth point for what actually works, and that's going to be augmentation over replacement. Um, this gets back to, that fear and skepticism. We're not going to be replacing engineers. We're not going to be replacing designers, PMs, and the like, at least not yet. But I don't think so. I don't think we are. It's really used to augment what we're able to do, how quickly we're able to do things, how quickly we're able to do reviews, how quickly we're able to do research. It's really about building as much efficiency with the given tool set within an organization. And that's like any other technology piece that we have internally. It's about augmenting what we're capable of so that we can provide outsized deliverables, and I think that AI within AEC will allow smaller firms, more nimble firms, more deliberate firms to punch above their weights. And I'm really excited to see how AI affects the industry. But some examples of this in regards to successful deployment are going to be QA/QC assistance, standards intelligence, proposal support, and document understanding. Those are some low-hanging fruit. The other one that I've had a lot of success deploying is it goes right along with standards intelligence and QA assistance, is building tools that um, run new hires through onboarding. So that's a really good use case as well. All right, let me get this fixed one more time. There we go. And I'll get into what leadership must decide before any AI sprint or spend, or however you want to define it. So we're closing in on this presentation here, and maybe I'll go over the 33 minutes. I'm not sure here. But what leadership must decide before deciding to deploy AI systems into your firm? So key decisions, this one is huge, again, for liability's sake, where AI is allowed and where it's not allowed. If you, I probably don't already have to say this, but if you upload a document onto a public AI, then that document is available to the public, or at least to the AI that you're using. This is liability exposure, so you want to decide very quickly, immediately, where AI is allowed versus where it's not allowed. And again, this is the second point to what I was just talking about, what data can be used and where it can live. So I definitely recommend against uploading any documents or even saying any client names in public AI. No details, but that's a decision that you'll have to make depending on your liability exposure tolerance. This is a key one as well, and that is, and I touched on these a bit earlier, these two kind of go hand in hand, but who owns the outcome and the risk, and then how success will be measured. So that comes down to, again, these are all leadership decisions, but you have to have this clearly defined. And then this is the last one here, but that's how staff will be brought along. and I talked about that a little bit, but these are the things that your organization really needs to identify before even jumping into this. And if you've already started down the AI road, then these are the things that you need to go ahead and make sure that you have defined. If they're not defined tonight, they should be tomorrow morning, first thing. So this is a leadership problem before it's a technical one because maybe these things aren't defined. So clarity reduces resistance more than training does. Um, we've all seen where staff's eyes begin to glaze over during training, lunch and learns, whatever it may be, annual traffic or driving training, safety training. But it's more about setting expectations, setting boundaries, and being very clear about how it can be used. Not saying that it has to be used, um, but that will reduce resistance more than training does. All right. So the AEC AI maturity curve, and this is where most firms actually are. So there are 5 stages to this, and you can put in the comments wherever you are. So the first one is awareness and anxiety. The second one is probably where, my guess, 30% of companies are, which is going to be experimentation and pilots. Maybe you've decided to go forward with it and you're still in the testing phase. That testing phase can get you to 2 potential places. There is fragmentation and fatigue, and this is where you start to fall off, or alignment and integration. And that's really the goal, is alignment and integration. And then the fifth stage, which is the kind of the checkered flag, the finish line, and that is where you are able to leverage and take full advantage of AI systems. So, as I said earlier, most firms are stuck between 2 and 3. That's experimentation and pilots, and then fragmentation and fatigue. And moving forward from there requires intentional structure, not more tools. Be very clear about that. And I think AEC firms understand that. It's not about the number of tools, it's about the quality of tools that we use. But that's really where we start to separate successful AI deployment from it stalling out and falling off. So I will get to my closing now. So you don't need to go all in on AI. You need clarity, alignment, and a defensible plan. So it's all about strategy, like most things in business, but particularly with something that can make as large of an impact as deployment of artificial intelligence. And responsible adoption is a competitive advantage. There's no doubt about that. If it's speed of deliverable or distribution of industry knowledge, these are the 2 key things I think. But responsible adoption is a competitive advantage. So that's the biggest thing there. So if this raised good questions, then that's a win. That's exactly why I built AECAI.io. AI won't replace good judgment in AEC, but firms that apply it well will outpace those who don't. So that's it. That was my first LinkedIn Live. Thank you for joining, and follow if this interests you, and then I'll host these on a more regular schedule, and I'll post that as well. All right. That is it. Thank you very much. Talk to you next time.